Hello, everyone! If there's ever been a clear case of someone hurting themselves while believing they are doing the right thing, it's Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They aren't just outsiders in the royal family. They are a perfect example of selfishness, self-importance, and complete hypocrisy. If there's one thing they aren't, it's real victims of the media or the royal family. What Harry and Meghan are doing goes much deeper than that. They're using their status to gain fame, money, and attention, all while pretending to be victims or hiding behind social justice and humanitarian causes. They should be called out for their fake behavior and ridiculous efforts to portray themselves as modern-day martyrs. Harry's latest courtroom appearance perfectly shows this relentless craving for attention, no matter the price. The man who once confidently declared he was done with the monarchy is now making a comeback for another shot at fame and, more importantly, money. His lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch's newspaper group is nothing more than a calculated attempt to cash in under the guise of seeking justice. And by justice, we mean the kind of attention that comes from being in the spotlight, with cameras, flashing and headlines shouting his name. Let's be honest, Harry isn't after justice. If he truly cared about justice, he wouldn't have turned his family's issues into a public spectacle. This trial isn't about holding the press accountable. It's about Harry trying to keep himself in the spotlight, and if he ends up bankrupting himself along the way, so be it. After all, what's more important than the endless pursuit of validation? But Harry isn't alone in this dismal show. Meghan Markle, who has built a career on pretending to champion the oppressed while benefiting from the very system she criticizes, is once again playing the role of the concerned wife. She might claim she was caught off guard by Harry's decision to go to trial. But let's be real. Meghan knew exactly what he was getting into. She understood this legal battle would draw attention, and she was ready to ride Harry's coattails right back into the spotlight. She's always known how to stay in the public eye, whether through occasional Instagram posts or her constant quest for self-promotion. When Meghan deleted her Instagram years ago, it was meant to signal her desire for privacy, something she now seems to have conveniently overlooked. Let's be honest, Meghan doesn't care about privacy. She thrives on attention, likes, shares, and the admiration of her social media followers. That's why, after years of silence, she reactivated her Instagram on January 1st with a post showing her smiling and running on a beach, like an ad for a wellness retreat. Conveniently, this post came just as the new year began, a time when people are focused on resolutions and self-improvement. But not Meghan. She was more focused on reminding everyone that she's still relevant because, let's be honest, she craves the validation. Her return to Instagram couldn't have been more perfectly timed with Harry's trial. While Harry tries to present his case for the moral high ground, Meghan is already gearing up for another round of self-serving publicity. Her post wasn't about raising awareness for a cause or promoting her charitable efforts. It was, as always, about putting herself in the spotlight. The Duchess of Hypocrisy, who once lectured us all on the importance of privacy, is back on social media, enjoying the rewards of a carefully crafted image that screams, "Look at me!" The irony is so thick, it's almost palpable. But it gets worse. Meghan's sudden return to social media, along with Harry's ridiculous court battle, are nothing more than desperate attempts to keep their names in the headlines. They claim to be tired of the spotlight, yet they always find ways to stay in the center of attention. They want the luxury of privacy, but can't resist stepping in front of cameras whenever they get the chance. It's an endless cycle of contradictions. They say one thing and do the opposite, all while playing the victim, whenever they can. If anyone deserves to be called out for hypocrisy, it's these two. They've built careers pretending to care about the everyday person, while taking advantage of every opportunity for fame and money. Meanwhile, as they continue to use their royal connections to their benefit, their financial situation is quickly becoming unstable. The Spotify deal, for example, never really took off. The Netflix show that may or may not be renewed, along with their constant need for attention, shows one clear truth. These two are running out of options. They're no longer the golden couple they once believed they were. The public has moved on, and so has the royal family. Harry and Meghan will go to any length to stay in the spotlight. Whether it's airing their personal issues in public, using their children for attention, or finding new ways to make headlines, they'll do whatever it takes to stay at the center of media buzz. The funniest part is that they don't even seem to realize how absurd they look. Meghan often talks about empowerment, yet her actions seem to focus more on self-pity than inspiring others. While she positions herself as a feminist leader, her behavior often appears self-centered. She speaks out against inequality and injustice, but her lifestyle reflects significant privilege and entitlement. Harry's claims of bravery in challenging the media seem more like an attempt to stay in the spotlight rather than a genuine stand. He appears determined to cling to relevance, despite the world moving past his royal drama. While he criticizes others, he seems eager to enjoy the privileges he denounces, all while presenting himself as morally superior. The couple seems entirely focused on boosting their own image, and it's exhausting to watch. They live in a bubble, believing that portraying themselves as victims will keep their royal ties profitable. In reality, the world sees through their act. They come across as self-serving, opportunistic, and hypocritical. Every move they make seems carefully planned to keep the spotlight on them, making their calls for privacy appear laughable. If they genuinely wanted a private life, they would have stepped away from the public eye long ago. Instead, they continue to capitalize on their status for profit and fame. Harry and Meghan's behavior often comes across as utterly ridiculous. They've turned their lives into a public spectacle, with their craving for attention being all too obvious. They embody the worst aspects of modern celebrity culture: self-centered, hypocritical, and completely oblivious to the privilege they live in. The harder they try to cast themselves as heroes in this worn-out story, the clearer it becomes that they're playing the role of the villains. It's time for them to drop the act and accept that their fleeting fame is rapidly fading. If there were ever a perfect example of self-promotion and hypocrisy, it would be Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Every action they take seems designed not only to keep them in the spotlight, but to highlight just how self-absorbed and self-serving they really are. The charade they maintain, pretending to be champions of justice, is nothing short of ridiculous. Their actions paint a very different picture, one of relentless attention-seeking, empty virtue signaling, and an unquenchable thirst for fame. Take Harry, for instance. His post-royal identity seems entirely built around trying to prove he's somehow more genuine than everyone else. This is the same man who spent years enjoying the privileges of one of the world's wealthiest families. Yet now, he tries to present himself as a defender of the common man. His courtroom theatrics and public displays seem like an effort to cast himself as a victim of the press, a so-called martyr fighting for the rights of the oppressed. The truth is far less heroic. Harry's legal battles against media giants like Rupert Murdoch's news group seem more like a desperate bid to stay relevant than a genuine pursuit of justice. Let's not fool ourselves into believing this fight is truly about making things right. It's all about Harry clinging to the headlines, fighting to stay in the spotlight. If anything, this trial highlights the lengths he'll go to avoid fading into irrelevance. The irony is hard to miss. His relentless pursuit of attention makes him no different from the very media he claims to detest. Meanwhile, Meghan, always a by his side in this absurd drama, continues her act of virtue signaling and self-promotion. She's quick to portray herself as a woman of the people, someone who understands the struggles of the less fortunate. Yet, most of her public efforts seem focused on boosting her own image, whether it's launching a lifestyle blog, pushing a self-help narrative, or, more recently, reviving her Instagram account. The choice of January 1st, New Year's Day, for her grand return to social media was no coincidence. It wasn't about truly connecting with her followers. It was a calculated move to capture attention and keep her brand relevant. Take her Instagram post, for example, where she's jogging along the beach, writing 2025 in the sand. It's clear this was all about creating a moment that would stand out. Was that supposed to be some meaningful, profound moment, or just another desperate attempt to stay relevant? It felt like Meghan was reminding everyone that she's still here, still in the public eye. Her smile as she jogged away from the camera, trying to seem effortlessly cool and authentic, was nothing more than a carefully crafted image for her followers. It's almost laughable how obvious her efforts are, yet Meghan and Harry seem to have mastered the art of pretending they're above it all. Now, let's take a closer look at Meghan's constant need for validation. Meghan has a remarkable ability to present herself as a self-made success, even though her life has been shaped by privilege, wealth, and royal connections. She's a former actress with a lifestyle blog, yet somehow expects the world to take her seriously as an activist. What's most frustrating is how she conveniently overlooks the fact that her entire journey has been driven by personal gain. Whether it's leveraging her relationship with Harry or using her so-called humanitarian efforts to boost her brand, Meghan has perfected the art of self-interest. As for Harry and Meghan's relationship with the media, it's one of constant conflict, even though they're both completely reliant on it. Their entire post-royal careers depend on media coverage and public attention, yet they continue to portray themselves as victims. They're always complaining about their privacy being invaded and how unfairly they're treated. Yet, they never miss a chance for a photo opportunity, interview, or paid appearance. Funny, isn't it? They love all the benefits of being in the limelight, but get upset when the spotlight doesn't land exactly where they want it. Their actions often seem contradictory. Meghan, who once spoke openly about the challenges of public life, now appears comfortable sharing moments with her children for the cameras and profiting from stories about her family. Meanwhile, Harry, who once valued his independence from royal duties, has embraced a role as a media figure, airing personal grievances and legal struggles for public attention. They've built a brand centered on authenticity, yet almost every action feels anything but genuine. Their image seems carefully crafted and staged. The real question is, how much longer can this facade hold up? How much longer can Harry and Meghan maintain the victim narrative in a world growing increasingly weary of their behavior? Their relentless pursuit of attention has turned them into a source of ridicule. Many now see through the act. The more they push the story of unfair treatment, the clearer it becomes that they are leveraging both the media and their royal ties to build their personal brand. They aren't champions of justice or activism. They're savvy marketers using their royal ties as a platform to climb higher in the celebrity world. And as for their financial struggles, Harry and Meghan have tried to portray themselves as everyday people living modestly. However, their constant pursuit of high-paying deals with companies like Spotify and Netflix tells a different story. If they were truly as grounded as they claim, they wouldn't be tirelessly chasing the next big paycheck. They wouldn't be so eager to win public approval, exposing every aspect of their lives for financial gain. The reality is that the Sussexes' public persona is nothing more than a meticulously crafted illusion. They strive to appear as champions of social change and advocates for the unheard, but their actions tell a different story. In reality, they're no different from any other celebrity couple trying to cling to relevance in a world that's moved on. Their attempts to maintain royal credibility are almost comical, and their efforts to portray themselves as anything but self-serving opportunists feel insulting. People are beginning to see through the act, and it's only a matter of time before the illusion falls apart. Meghan and Harry will undoubtedly continue pushing their narrative, using every platform to keep their faces in the spotlight. However, the reality is that their story is losing its charm. People are growing weary of the endless drama, the self-righteous tone, and their constant craving for attention. They'll continue to push their narrative of victimhood, but the world is becoming more doubtful of the former royal couple. The truth is, they're not victims. They're opportunists. The sooner they come to terms with that, the better. Harry and Meghan's story is one of unapologetic self-interest, calculated, drama, and an unyielding hunger for the spotlight. Every new headline only reinforces what many have suspected all along. Their post-royal life is nothing more than a calculated string of PR stunts aimed at keeping them in the spotlight. Whether it's Harry's legal battles or Meghan's ongoing self-promotion on social media, their actions are steeped in desperation and self-interest. The hypocrisy in their actions is hard to miss, especially when their entire narrative revolves around victimhood. Yet they constantly chase the spotlight to sustain their brand. Take Harry, for instance. His every move seems to shout, "Look at me! Look at how much I've suffered." Anyone who believed he would use his newfound freedom to create meaningful change has likely been deeply disappointed. Harry's legal battle, far from being a noble pursuit for justice, is just another desperate attempt to stay in the public eye. His decision to take on media giants like Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers feels more like a tantrum than a quest for accountability. After all, isn't this the same man who has spent his entire adult life benefiting from the media exposure he now claims to despise? The hypocrisy is impossible to ignore. It's almost comical to think that Harry sees himself as a crusader against the media. In reality, he's just trying to get back into the spotlight. The more he pushes for this trial, the more he reveals himself as someone who can't let go of the royal privileges he's so accustomed to. It's as if Harry can't stand the idea of being irrelevant, and this case is just his way of staying in the headlines. It's no surprise that he's willing to risk financial ruin to ensure he remains in the media's gaze. After all, without constant media attention, what would Harry be? Just another minor celebrity, struggling to make a name for himself like everyone else. Then there's Meghan, who, as always, is right by Harry's side, eager to grab the spotlight for herself. Her return to Instagram on January 1st, the very first day of the new year, was as much about her self-centeredness as it was an attempt to stay relevant. The carefully planned post of her jogging on a beach and writing 2025 in the sand perfectly captures her manufactured sense of authenticity. How much more staged can it get? The post is a clear example of how Meghan continues to manipulate her image, carefully creating moments that she hopes will make her seem down-to-earth, relatable, and even inspiring. But let's not be deceived. This is all about promoting a narrative that casts her as a woman of the people, while every action she takes oozes entitlement and privilege. What's even more absurd is how Meghan continues to portray herself as a victim of the media. The irony is hard to miss. Meghan, who has spent her entire life chasing fame and fortune, now wants to play the role of the innocent bystander. She claims to have been blindsided by Harry's decision to make his legal battle public. Meghan knew exactly what she was getting into when she married Harry. Together, they've turned their personal lives into a source of income, whether through book deals, Netflix shows, or constant interviews. Now, When the media points out their hypocrisy, they respond as if they're the victims of an unfair system. It's a tiring act, and honestly, it's tough to feel sympathy for them. Their whole life seems focused on creating new projects that, in the end, feel empty and selfish. Their podcast deal with Spotify was a flop, ending suddenly after just a few seasons. They made a big fuss over their Netflix series, which was supposed to change the way we see the royals. But in the end, what did it really achieve? Nothing meaningful. Their brand is built on false promises and shallow content. It's all just an illusion, creating an image of importance while pushing away the people who used to support them. From documentaries that seem more like PR stunts to Instagram posts that try too hard to make them seem relatable, everything they do is just about staying in the spotlight. Their need to stay in the spotlight has become so strong that it feels like everything they do is less about making a real difference and more about putting on a show. It's honestly sad to see. These are two people who had the option to step away from the public eye, live quietly, and enjoy the advantages they already have. They've chosen to make every part of their lives public. It's not just about sharing their story. They're showing their pain, the way the media has treated them, and the issues they've faced with their royal family. It's all part of creating a story that paints them as the victims in a world that doesn't seem to get them. Behind the polished image lies a calculated effort to appear noble, courageous, and above reproach. In truth, they're simply two individuals leveraging their royal status to secure a life of fame, wealth, and, most troublingly, relentless self-promotion. The most unsettling aspect is how they continue to exploit their royal titles to their fullest advantage. Meghan and Harry might try to distance themselves from the royal family, but they know their titles are what keep them in the spotlight. Meghan still refers to herself as the Duchess of Sussex, while Harry conveniently uses his prince status whenever it suits him. It's frustrating to see them exploit their royal ties to promote personal agendas while complaining about the very pressures and expectations those titles bring. If they were serious about separating from the royal family, they would have given up their titles long ago. But they can't let go because they know their royal status is what keeps them relevant. The projects they've launched in recent years seem like little more than money-making schemes, designed to secure their financial future while ensuring they stay in the headlines. Like their Netflix deal and podcast, Meghan's Instagram posts, and every move they make are carefully crafted to keep their personal brand afloat. Yet, despite all their efforts, they've become more irrelevant than ever. They've burned bridges, lost supporters, and failed to deliver on their promises. Still, they push forward, hoping the world will buy into their narrative. It's time for Harry and Meghan to accept that their relentless self-promotion is losing its appeal. They've taken full advantage of their royal status, but it's time to step back and realize the world isn't as captivated by them as they believe. The damage to their reputations is already done, and it won't be long before the public sees through their shallow attempts to stay relevant. It's time for them to stop leaning on their titles as a crutch and start engaging with the real world. Maybe it's time for them to show a little humility instead of clinging to their manufactured royal image. People are tired of the act, and it's about time they step aside and let someone else have the spotlight. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Harry and Meghan's world, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more insights into their latest moves. There's plenty more to uncover, so stay tuned.